Hello YouTube, what is going on? It is Epic Big Bird, and I've got some more Rome 2 Total War Online commentary to do for you today. In this battle, you can see here, I have come into a 2v2 battle. I have chosen Macedonia as my army. My opponent has gone with Rome, and we will be facing off against the Nervii and the Royal Scythians. And this was a large funds battle. Loading up with you guys in the loading screen today so we can talk about my army build here. You can see I am still exploring with some different skirmishing tactics, still trying to find these Cretan archers worth and value. But you can see here I've gone with, I believe, 4 hoplites, 4 Balearic slingers, 2 Cretan archers, 2 companion cav, 2 sarissa cav, and 2 I believe these are Thessalians. I'm not sure. And you can see here Royal Scythia has brought with them, it looks like 6 of these armored horse archers with, looks like 7 noble horse maybe, but we will get that confirmation when we get into the battle. And here we go. You can see here my ally has deployed with him today. He has brought, I'm going to overhead this, it'll make this easier. He's brought in with him 5 sets of armored legionnaires backed up by 6 Syrian archers, and then he has gladiator spearmen and gladiators anchoring his army with a general and bodyguard and 2 Saki equites. So honestly, my ally does not have the strongest build to be taking on this horse faction. Honestly, these gladiator spearmen, yes, they will do okay against all these horse-mounted units, but you have to get them in good engagements, and quite frankly, my ally has not brought enough spears to deal with it, the amount of cavalry that we will have to fight. Now, you can see here what Scythia is doing is pretty smart. And you can see here that his horses are steppe noble lances, which are very good shock cav, and then he has royal horse archers, which are a very good archer cav. Yes, 32 damage. They only have 125 range, but other than that, 32 damage is quite high for a missile unit, or especially an archer unit. And that's going to make up Scythia's army. And you can see here, we actually haven't revealed our positions yet. We are sticking into the woods. I instructed my ally that I told him that we must engage in the woods or else the Scythian horse archers will tear us to shreds. And so that's what we're doing. This is also benefiting us because now they don't know where we are exactly. You can see Scythia is scooting down the flank just like we would have expected out of a skirmisher horse faction like that. And you can see here the Nervii are still, we don't really know what they're comprised of, but it's looking like fierce swords and some levy freemen. So pretty weak spear infantry, but he shouldn't really need it if Scythia plays properly. These boyai units shouldn't need too much cavalry assistance since their ally is Scythia. Now, what you can see us doing over here is, again, we're going to go back into tactical because it's going to be easier to view our units in this view. You can see here I'm scooting my cav actually away from Royal Scythia's cav. I'm actually trying to put some distance in between them because I know that my cavalry, although I have 2 companions, 2 Thessalians, and 2 sarissas, they're going to get shredded in any kind of engagement that I would try to take with these steppe fighters. With horse archer support, it doesn't matter. Any engagement will go in Scythia's favor if we engage on open ground with our cavalry at the very least. So you can see here we are starting to shift here. Rome is going to advance. We're going to be pushing towards the Boii because you can see here our Scythian counterpart is swinging even further behind our lines. So I asked Rome to step up and engage the Boii. I've moved my cav to the flanks to support any engagement that the Romans are coming under, and you can see here my spears are mobilizing. They're going to be anchoring Rome's infantry corps in place here. And I'm keeping my Rhodian slingers close by to try and counteract these horse archers when they get into the mix. But here you can see I'm going to use them on these guerrilla warriors, on this huge clump of Gallic hunters and guerrilla warriors. All of these are unarmored units, basically medium armored units. So they're going to be pretty susceptible to archer fire. You can see over here we're charging over here with our cav. We're looking for an engagement, and Scythia is looking to probe our rear, but due to our pike wall, that's going to be a hard task for him. You can see here we have a mighty horse and a noble horse holding the boii flank. We are going to accept that engagement. We're going to try and get into engagement. You can see how fast our Sarissa cav are. They're going to get us into this engagement, I believe. But you can see he is pulling us closer and closer out of the woods. Over here, Rome is actually... he's doing what I asked him, and that is to stay in the woods. Like I said, we're not going to press an engagement on these barbarian factions. We're going to hold our rear in reserve. You can see here the steppe noble horses are trying to find a way to deal with my slingers. They're not being very effective right now. The archers are firing, but like I said, not doing very much damage against my Cretans. You can see here they're being focus fired. I only lost one on that volley. That's due to the woods, so that's a pretty good bonus for me. Here we're doing massive amounts of damage to the boii, and over here we did accept an engagement with our cav. You can see here we're taking pretty brutal charges right now, but we have these Thessalians and our companions still in reserve, and here we're going to act upon them. We have some levy freemen joining the fight, but we're going to get pretty decent charges in on the flank of this blob now. We're going to run these Thessalians around to keep these spear units out of the fight. However, you can see they are reinforcing with more spear brothers, so that's not good. You can see here these horse archers are still firing on my men. Now he's switched to my hoplites, it's looking like, and they're starting to do some damage. But again, I'm okay. I'm happy with this exchange right now. Like I said, it's the best I can do against these horse archers, and I really want to kill these Gallic hunters because they're pretty vulnerable right now. But however, you can see here our cav has gotten tied down into a pretty extended melee, and this is giving Royal Scythia time to pull up his superior cav and help them into the fight. I'm going to try and pull off with my general, but I'm going to have to sacrifice the rest of my cav in this engagement. We're simply not going to win with against those fresh steppe noble horse. So you can see here I'm trying to wheel away with my general and get away with these Thessalians. I'm not sure if we get away with the Thessalians or not. But you can see here Rome is still biding its time. We are holding fast. I'm shifting my pike line and my skirmishers to bring them into the security of this Roman army. But we are effectively neutralizing the boii at this moment. We're keeping them very inefficient. We've killed a lot of their units with just slinger fire alone. And now we've switched to these royal horses, but they're in Cantabrian Circle. They won't be doing we won't be doing very much damage to them in Cantabrian Circle. However, our slingers and the Cretan archers are still at pretty much full strength, and we have crippled the skirmishing component of the boii. So we're sitting okay right now. All of our units are well defended from the woods. Like I said, we cannot be fired upon, and we did manage to escape with what remains of my general's companion cav and a pretty healthy set of Thessalian cav actually. So we still do have somewhat of a mobility tool over here with our cavalry. We have somewhat of an arm, a mobility. We can at least attempt to counter some cav charges, and you can see here Scythia is mobilizing their cavalry to the flanks of the Romans, and the boii are continuing to try and assault the Romans from different angles. See, right there you can see I issue my pikes orders. I realize that my pikes are quite out of formation compared to this Roman setup right now, and they're actually quite vulnerable to these steppe lancers that are coming in now. I'm going to have to try and get my hoplites over there as fast as I can. Here you can see I turn back and I decide to just flat out charge this blob of horses with what's left of my cavalry. I get pretty decent charges into them actually, but due to the sheer numbers of these cav, we're just not going to win. It is tying them up though, which is giving my infantry body time to advance. You can see here there's 2 more Steppe Noble Lancers that are chasing down or coming from the other angle, which was a smart tactical decision by our Scythian opponent. But you can see I notice it and I split off some of my pikes. He issues frenzied charge and my pikes are going to get into formation just in time. This pike formation is pretty much going to get obliterated, spear formation. And he gets a pretty healthy charge into the auxiliary Syrian archers there. However, I'm going to get... I do tie up one of these Steppe Noble Lancers in an exchange. And these Steppe Lances get out pretty healthy though. That was a pretty well executed charge. Pretty good exchange on my opponent's part. We lose some skirmishing. And you can see here my skirmisher units are actually quite vulnerable, but we've gotten 2 of our hoplites in the mix in this engagement down here with these noble lances. Managed to rout one of them. We're firing heavily into them. The remaining of the Boii have engaged with our Roman allies, and you can see here Steppe Noble Lances coming in for a secondary charge, trying to head frontal on into these Armored Legionnaires. That's not going to bode too well for them, honestly. Armored Legionnaires will be able to hold up against the Cav unit, at least for a while. It'll definitely break the charge and allow my hoplites to get into the engagement. You can see here what's remaining of the Boii Fierce Swords are trying to flank over here, and what's interesting is we can see a whole horde of horse archers that are almost at the border of the map in the background, and they're just now coming back to engage. You can see here we're actually being quite successful against his cav. We're using our heavy skirmishing advantage, and we're being very smart with our hoplite movements. We're trying to play as defensively as we can. You can see these fierce swords are getting into our skirmishers though. Not going to be very good. But you can see we have effectively repelled what the first wave of the Scythian horses. And there you can see my hoplites are going to deal with the rest of these guerrilla swords. Again, my Roman ally should not be engaging these Steppe Noble Lances in this manner, really. These charges are going to wear down on these legionnaires. You can see it's costing them. It's costing both my Roman ally and my Scythian opponent in these charges, honestly. They're pretty much they're doing handoffs pretty much on every charge. But you can see here, again, Scythia is positioning himself for rear charges, so I'm going to pull my pikes closer to the safety and security of my Roman ally. And here you can see with some skirmish fire, these Steppe Noble Lances finally go down. You can see here these Royal Horse Archers are still firing, since probably because of the fact that they were taken out of the game for quite a while, but at this point in the battle we have to assume that they're close to being low on ammo. If we can just bide our time for a little bit longer, we might be able to force them into charges. And you can see here Royal Scythia wheeling around, doing some maneuvering. We have some more Boii Mighty Horse emerging from the woods, but they're quite beat up from the engagement that they had to endure with my companions. Here you can see Rome makes a very huge error. He had gotten sick and tired of waiting, and he started advancing with his legionnaires. I was begging him at this point to pull back. If he would have done that, it would have been game over for both of us. The Scythian army would have easily just split up and then charged from all sides, and that would have been the end of every single Roman cohort in that army. And then he would have been able to do the same thing to me, since I do not have enough spears to protect all of my archers and slingers. Excuse me there, guys, sorry about that. But you can see here we are focus firing into these missile cav. We're doing a pretty decent amount of damage. He's quite clumped up. Again, you can see he's trying to maneuver to get into these healthy Syrian archers and this huge infantry corps. You can see here he's committing very heavily. I'm going to pull back my skirmishers, advance my spears, and you can see here our spears get into engagement and get into melee with no charge taken, which is good for us. Our skirmishers, for the most part, pulled out and are quite healthy, and our spears over here are engaging. We're still focus firing our skirmishers, but you can see here Scythia pulls out once again. He's being very diligent in charging and then pulling out and charging again. He knows that with these shock cav, that's where most of his damage is going to be. You can see there, he charges again with his horse archers into my pikes. If that would have been his shock cav, that would have been very bad for my hoplites. So you can see here my hoplites are already, they're dropping very fast, and he actually manages to rout them. I was not aware of this. But that's due to the fact that my hoplites were shifting when he charged, and they were not braced and in formation, and you can see he's doing quite a decent amount of damage. But as my hoplites are forming up, their numbers, their losses start dwindling. And you can see here, I'm not going to make that mistake twice. I'm going to pull back my hoplites, make sure that they're braced and set for the next charge. And if we look over on the right flank, we still have one more set of hoplites to be fighting. Here, Boii are going to sacrifice their general against my hoplites. Not a smart decision, but probably a micro error. Over here, my Roman ally has lost some of his auxiliary Syrians, who are going to get run down by the remaining Scythian horses. But you can see here my Roman ally and myself are reforming. We are trying to again protect the skirmishers, really protect against these charges. And here we're going to take care of a lot of what's left of the shock cav. But for the most part, I'm keeping my spears very defensively. I need to make sure that my skirmishers are still protected, as I keep saying. And here we go. Here comes another charge. I get them into pike wall just in time, but you can see, due to their very low, how thin I had them spread in rank, he actually penetrates quite well with just these heavy missile cav. However, my hoplites are killing back, which is a good thing. You know, in patch 9, this is something that Heir of Carthage brought up in a recent video, but you know, these spear units don't really hold up very well against cav. Honestly, you can see right there, he was able to penetrate pretty deep into my hoplite wall with just an armored horse unit. I feel like spears shouldn't be totally overpowered. They shouldn't be killing things like pikes kill things on a charge, but they should have some holding force, especially against a cavalry unit. I mean, let's be honest, that's what a spear was basically designed to do. I mean, it's a good weapon to be killing cavalry with, so I feel like the spear should be buffed a little bit in the next patch. I agree with you there, Heir, if you happen to be listening to my videos. But let's take a look at battle statistics here. You can see here, for the money that I spent on my companions and my cavalry as a whole, did not really get their money's worth out of them. I squandered them really in an engagement with the Boii cav. I thought I would be able to win that engagement faster, but it turned into a prolonged combat, and that allowed my Scythian opponent to get in there and help out. Excuse me guys, sorry about that. And as far as my spears go, really, I mean, for their price, I suppose they're cost effective. Here I have 0 kills and 12 kills. That's probably due to them being out of formation and taking charges. So really have to emphasize these hoplites and these other spear units to be braced when they're going to be taking on cavalry charges, or else you get incidents like this. Skirmishing though, my skirmishers did very well, and I would say even my Cretan archers, you can see my Cretan archers didn't do as well as my Rhodian slingers. So all in all, after playing around with these archers, I would still have to say that slingers are the best long-range skirmisher you can bring. If you are planning on rushing your opponent, definitely bring javelins. Those are going to help you a lot more than slingers are, because slingers are more of a defensive army, if I do say so myself. Slingers are meant to remove your opponent's own skirmishing component and force them into an assault. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have for you guys in this battle. I hope you've learned something tactical. Hope you can apply it to your own game plan. This has been Epic Big Bird. See you guys all soon.